more they see you, the less they value you. The more you speak, the less they listen. Power does not lie in presence. It lies in absence. When you vanish, they remember. When you stay, they forget. Disappear, and you'll watch the world realize your worth. Too late. This is the cruel truth of human nature, and Machiavelli understood it well. Absence is a weapon. It is one of the most underestimated tools of power because most people are addicted to being seen, heard, and validated. They chase attention as if it were oxygen, not realizing that the more they appear, the less impact they have. Presence, when constant, loses its meaning. Just as too much sunlight blinds the eyes, too much presence dulls your significance. When you are always available, you become predictable. And predictability kills fascination. A person who never leaves the room is soon ignored, but the one who vanishes makes everyone turn their head toward the empty chair. Machiavelli understood that human nature is fickle and self-serving. People only value what they fear to lose, and they only fear what they do not completely possess. By withdrawing your presence strategically, you create space for your worth to expand in the minds of others. They begin to replay your words, your gestures, your silence. They start to imagine your return, and imagination, when mixed with curiosity, becomes obsession. You are no longer a person in front of them. You become a symbol, a thought they cannot escape. Absence forces others to confront the vacuum you leave behind. When you are gone, they realize the weight you carried, the influence you had. This realization never happens when you are constantly around, because the human mind normalizes everything it has access to. That is why luxury is scarce, and why mystery is magnetic. To wield absence as a weapon is not to vanish out of weakness or rejection, but to disappear with purpose. To let people feel your silence and learn to respect it. When you stop showing up, people are forced to decide how much you mattered. Some will forget you easily, revealing their shallowness. Others will search for you, drawn by the gravity you created before leaving. Those who notice your absence are the ones who truly saw your value. Absence filters the genuine from the indifferent. It purifies your circle without confrontation. You don't need to argue, demand, or beg for respect. You withdraw, and silence does the talking. In politics, in relationships, and in influence, the art of absence is about control. Constant presence gives others too much information, too much comfort. They begin to feel equal to you, even superior. But when you disappear, you regain control of the narrative. They start to ask questions. Where did you go? Why did you leave? Are you coming back? Every question raised in your absence feeds your power. Every moment they spend thinking about you keeps you alive in their mind. You become an idea, and ideas are harder to destroy than people. Even in war, absence is strategy. The general who retreats does not always surrender. Sometimes he withdraws to make the enemy restless, to stretch their resources, to make them underestimate him. Then he returns when they are weakest. The same principle applies to human dynamics. You withdraw to make others reveal their dependency on you. The longer they take your presence for granted, the more powerful your disappearance becomes. Silence, distance, and absence are not signs of weakness. They are signs of mastery over impulse. Most people cannot resist the urge to explain themselves, to prove their importance. But true power lies in restraint, in letting others speak while you remain a mystery. When you stop feeding people with your constant energy, they begin to crave it. And craving leads to respect, because it reminds them that you are not a common commodity. You are a rare presence. So when the time comes, step back. Do not announce your departure. Do not explain your silence. Simply disappear. The noise will continue for a while, but eventually your absence will echo louder than your words ever did. People value what they lose. It is one of the cruel constants of human nature that appreciation rarely exists in the moment. It blooms only in absence. While something or someone is present, easily accessible and familiar, the mind begins to grow numb to their value. What is constant becomes invisible. What is always available becomes ordinary. This is why even the most precious relationships, opportunities, and possessions are taken for granted until they are gone. Machiavelli understood that the psychology of value is built not on abundance, but on scarcity. To make people value you, you must first allow them to feel your absence. When someone grows accustomed to your presence, they stop seeing you as a privilege and begin to treat you as a routine. Your attention, once meaningful, becomes a background noise they no longer hear. But when you withdraw it, the silence that follows exposes its worth. Suddenly, the space you once filled feels empty, and emptiness demands reflection. They start to recall the words you said, the stability you brought, the energy you carried. What they ignored before becomes vivid in your absence. It is in losing you that they finally understand what you gave. Machiavelli would say that power lies not in being wanted, but in being missed. To be missed means you had an impact deep enough to leave a trace when you are gone. This trace is emotional leverage, and emotional leverage is a form of control. When people begin to feel your absence, they begin to question their own behavior. They wonder if they pushed you away, if they undervalued you, if they made a mistake. That uncertainty gnaws at them, and in their attempt to fill that void, they start to elevate your worth in their mind. They rewrite the past, amplifying your importance, polishing your memory. You are no longer a person. They turn you into an ideal. The tragedy is that humans are wired to realize the value of light only when they are surrounded by darkness. When you were present, your presence blinded them. It was too constant, too close to be appreciated. When you are gone, the contrast strikes them with force. This contrast is what makes absence powerful. It forces people to measure what they once took for granted. You cannot convince someone of your worth with words or effort. You must let them experience life without you. That experience is the only proof that matters. In every form of power, political, personal, or emotional, the principle remains the same. Leaders who are too visible lose their aura. Lovers who are too available lose their mystery. Friends who are always there lose their weight. People confuse access with worth, and only when that access is taken away do they realize what it meant. This is why the powerful learn to retreat. They allow others to taste their absence just long enough to provoke awareness. It is not cruelty, it is strategy. Because constant giving creates dependency, but strategic withdrawal creates recognition. There is also an element of punishment in disappearance. When people have misused your time, disrespected your energy, or dismissed your value, your absence serves as the lesson they refuse to learn. Words cannot teach what silence can. When you walk away, you become a mirror in which they see their own negligence reflected. The discomfort they feel is the price of their ignorance. Some will never understand it, but the few who do will never forget it. That is the paradox of value. It grows in the soil of loss. To make people value you, stop reminding them of your worth. Stop proving, stop pleasing, stop chasing. Presence can be ignored, but absence cannot. Disappear, and let time do what persuasion cannot. When you are no longer there to give, they will remember what they used to receive. When they cannot reach you, they will realize how much they depended on your presence. In their regret, you will find your power. Disappear to gain leverage. Power is rarely held by the one who is always visible. It belongs to the one who can withhold his presence at will. When you are constantly available, you give others the ability to measure you, to predict you, and eventually, to control you. Predictability breeds comfort, and comfort kills respect. Machiavelli understood that the element of mystery, the deliberate control of appearance and disappearance, is one of the strongest levers of influence. People fear what they cannot fully see, and they admire what they cannot fully reach. To disappear is not to abandon, it is to create tension, and in tension lies authority. When you step back, the balance of power shifts. Those who once felt secure in your presence begin to feel uncertain. They start to question their own standing, their words, their value in your eyes. This uncertainty makes them cautious, and caution is the soil in which respect grows. When people don't know where you are or what you are thinking, they are forced to consider you more carefully. You no longer have to demand attention. Your absence commands it. Every unanswered message, every silent day, becomes a statement louder than speech. You are no longer part of the noise. You have become the quiet that everyone notices. Leverage is not about control through force. It is control through perception. By disappearing, you create scarcity, and scarcity enhances worth. What is always present loses weight, but what is rare gains gravity. Think of gold. It is not powerful because it is abundant, but because it is difficult to possess. The same law applies to human presence. When you become less accessible, people start to assign greater value to every appearance, every word, every interaction. They begin to interpret your silence, speculate about your motives, and even compete for your attention. You have turned absence into an invisible form of dominance. In politics, Machiavelli advised rulers never to reveal too much of their plans or emotions. A prince who is always seen, who is too familiar with his subjects, loses the veil that gives him authority. His disappearance from public view creates an image larger than the man himself. People start to imagine his power, his strategy, his strength, and imagination often creates something greater than reality. The same principle applies to social dynamics. The more people think they understand you, the more ordinary you become. The less they know, the more they are drawn to you. The act of disappearing also serves as a test. When you remove yourself, you see who comes searching and who does not notice your absence. Those who look for you are those who truly value you. Those who dunchty are the ones who were feeding off your energy without giving anything in return. Your disappearance exposes dependency, filters loyalty, and restores clarity. It separates the genuine from the opportunistic without you saying a word. This is how the wise preserve their power, by observing reactions from a distance rather than fighting for recognition up close. When you are always available, others feel entitled to your presence. They think they can summon you at will, and entitlement erodes respect. Disappearing breaks that illusion. It reminds people that your time and energy belong to you, not to them. It makes them realize that your presence is not a guarantee. It is a privilege. Once they understand that, they start to approach you with caution, respect, and even admiration. You have shifted the dynamic from pursuit to command. To disappear is not weakness, it is strategy. It is the quiet art of taking back control without confrontation. Most people chase visibility, thinking that constant exposure equals importance. But true importance doesn't need to be seen. It needs to be felt. When you vanish, people feel the void you leave behind. That void becomes leverage. You control when to return, how to reappear, and on what terms. Every time you withhold your presence, your influence grows in silence. Silence magnifies power. In a world addicted to noise, the one who can remain silent holds the advantage. Most people talk to fill the emptiness, to prove their knowledge, to seek validation. They expose everything, what they think, what they feel, what they fear, believing that constant expression is strength. But Machiavelli knew that power thrives in restraint. The man who speaks less forces others to listen more carefully when he finally chooses to speak. Silence turns your words into a rare currency. It creates an aura of weight around your presence, making even your smallest statement feel deliberate and significant. Silence unsettles people because it denies them information. When they cannot read you, they begin to project their own assumptions, fears, and hopes onto your quiet. You no longer need to defend yourself or reveal your intentions. Others will reveal themselves trying to interpret you. This is psychological dominance, letting your silence make others uncomfortable enough to expose what you do not. The more they speak, the more they show their weakness. The less you speak, the more they imagine your strength. It is not the noise that commands respect, but the calm within it. In conversation, silence is not absence, it is control. The one who can pause, wait, and listen dictates the rhythm of communication. When others rush to fill the gap, they surrender power. They reveal eagerness, insecurity, and a lack of composure. You, on the other hand, appear composed, disciplined, and in command of yourself. People equate composure with authority, and authority breeds influence. Machiavelli would say that power is as much about perception as it is about action. Silence shapes perception by suggesting depth where there may be none, wisdom where there may be patience, and strength where there may be simply self-control. In politics and leadership, silence is often more effective than declarations. A ruler who remains quiet during chaos seems wise and calculating, even if he is merely observing. His silence allows rumors and interpretations to work in his favor. People imagine that his restraint hides strategy, that his patience conceals power. The truth may be simpler, but perception is what governs loyalty and fear. Words once spoken can be challenged or twisted. Silence, however, cannot be used against you. It cannot be misquoted, and it cannot betray your thoughts. It is a shield against manipulation. Silence also sharpens observation. When you stop reacting, you start seeing. You notice the tone, the hesitation, the inconsistencies in others' words. You read the intentions behind the smiles. Most people reveal their motives through speech, but silence gives you the clarity to detect what they try to hide. It transforms you from a participant into an observer, and in observation lies understanding. Understanding is power because it allows you to act with precision while others stumble in noise. There is also an aesthetic to silence. It makes your presence heavier. People start to associate your quiet with confidence, your pauses with intelligence, your calm with control. When you do speak, your words hit harder because they are unexpected. Your voice becomes an event, not a routine. Even a single sentence can shift the mood of an entire room because people have learned that when you speak, it matters. Silence builds anticipation, and anticipation is a tool of influence. But silence must be strategic, not passive. It is not about avoiding communication. It is about mastering timing. You choose when to speak, how much to reveal, and when to let others drown in their own words. The discipline to hold your tongue in moments of provocation or emotion separates the powerful from the impulsive. Every great manipulator, leader, or strategist in history understood that speech should be used sparingly, like a blade, only when it cuts deepest. To stay silent is to refuse to play the game by ordinary rules. It frustrates those who seek reaction, confuses those who seek weakness, and intrigues those who seek meaning. In silence, you become unreadable, and what cannot be read cannot be controlled. This is why silence magnifies power. It transforms you from a participant into a mystery, and mysteries are always feared, respected, and remembered. The rare is revered. Human nature is wired to desire what it cannot easily have. What is abundant loses its magic, and what is scarce becomes sacred. This principle governs everything from wealth and status to love and respect. Machiavelli understood that to be valued, one must never allow oneself to become common. When your time, your presence, and your attention are given too freely, people stop seeing their worth. Familiarity dulls appreciation. It turns what was once exceptional into something ordinary. The wise understand this and deliberately make their presence rare, because rarity breeds value, and value breeds power. When something is rare, people project meaning onto it. They compete for it, admire it, and exaggerate its importance. The object itself doesn't have to change. Its scarcity changes perception. That is why gold is treasured, not because of its utility, but because of its rarity. The same law applies to individuals. When you limit access to yourself, you elevate your perceived value. People start to pay attention when they realize they can't have you whenever they want. Your silence becomes intriguing, your absence mysterious, your return significant. Every interaction becomes precious because it's not guaranteed. The reason most people lose respect is that they confuse generosity with strength. They think giving constant attention proves loyalty, that being available shows love, that speaking often shows influence. But power operates in the opposite direction. The more you give, the less they appreciate. The more they see you, the less they notice. To maintain value, you must remain selective. You must choose when to appear, when to speak, when to offer your energy. Those who spread themselves too thin lose depth in the eyes of others. The powerful understand that withholding is an art. It's what creates anticipation, curiosity, and respect. Machiavelli would say that the wise ruler is like the sun. He shines enough to be needed, but not so much that people forget to fear the night. His rarity keeps the people attentive. The same is true in personal relationships. When someone knows you will always be there no matter how they treat you, they stop valuing you. Your availability becomes expected, not appreciated. But when you start setting boundaries, when you step away, when you limit your access, suddenly your presence feels different. They begin to notice what life feels like without you, and in that realization, their respect returns. Rarity also builds mystique. When people cannot easily access you, they begin to imagine who you are when they're not around. Their mind fills the silence with stories, assumptions, and admiration. You no longer have to prove your worth. They create it for you. Every rare appearance becomes an event, every word a revelation. By appearing less, you make each moment more memorable. By saying less, you make each word more powerful. It is the scarcity that gives your actions weight. There is discipline in being rare. It requires resisting the urge to prove yourself, to explain, to chase validation. It requires comfort in solitude and patience in strategy. Those who cannot bear to be unseen end up becoming invisible through overexposure. But those who can remain hidden until the right moment appear larger than life when they finally emerge. Their power seems effortless because it is not diluted. Their presence feels valuable because it is not constant. People may claim they want honesty, love, or loyalty, but what they truly crave is rarity. They want something they cannot control, something that feels slightly out of reach. To be that, you must not give yourself away easily. You must hold back, disappear, and reappear with purpose. That is how admiration is created. That is how you turn your presence into a privilege. The rare will always be revered, not because it is perfect, but because it is scarce. When you master the art of being rare, you no longer need to demand respect. It is given naturally because people fear losing what they know they cannot easily replace. When you reappear, come back not as the same, but as someone they now fear losing again. Disappearance is not merely withdrawal, it is transformation. When you step away from the noise, you create space to evolve, to rebuild yourself in silence, and to return stronger than before. Machiavelli understood that power demands reinvention. A ruler, a thinker, or an individual who remains the same loses their edge because people adapt to what they understand. To maintain influence, you must always be slightly unfamiliar. When you disappear, the world keeps turning without you. But when you return changed, colder, calmer, sharper, you disturb the balance. People sense the difference and instinctively adjust their behavior. Your return becomes an event, and your new presence commands the respect your old one could not. Most people return from absence seeking attention or acceptance. They come back apologetic, eager to explain, desperate to reclaim their place. But the powerful do the opposite. They return in silence, not to prove themselves, but to demonstrate that they no longer need anyone's approval. Their absence was not a retreat, it was an evolution. While others gossiped, doubted, or forgot, they were sharpening their mind, mastering their emotions, and learning how to move unseen. When they return, their energy feels different, less reactive, more deliberate. They speak less, observe more, and move with an aura of calm dominance. This quiet transformation unsettles people because it forces them to confront their previous underestimation. Absence followed by transformation creates psychological leverage. Those who once dismissed you are caught off guard. They no longer know how to approach you because your silence has stripped them of familiarity. They start to treat you with new caution, sensing that something within you has changed. Your confidence is colder now, measured, distant, unbothered. You no longer chase validation, and that independence makes you magnetic. People respect what does not beg to be respected. Your transformation becomes your revenge. Your composure becomes your weapon. Machiavelli would say that appearances are the armor of power. The world judges by what it sees, not by what is true. When you return, you must control that perception completely. Let them see discipline in your posture, purpose in your words, detachment in your eyes. Never reveal what your absence cost you. Only show what it gave you. Every scar must look like a medal, every loss like a lesson. This is how you turn past pain into present prestige. When people realize they can no longer affect you as they once did, they begin to treat you with fear disguised as respect. That fear is your protection. To come back stronger does not mean to be louder or more aggressive. Strength can be quiet. Sometimes the greatest power lies in the refusal to engage, in the way you move past old conflicts as if they never existed. Your calm becomes intimidating because it signals control. People expect reaction. When you give them none, they lose their power over you. The new version of yourself must not seek to explain the old one. Let mystery replace history. The less you reveal about your transformation, the more others will imagine it. And imagination always amplifies reality. When you return, let your silence speak of the distance you've traveled. Let your actions show that you are no longer available for the same games, the same arguments, the same smallness. The power of transformation lies not in changing how you look to others, but in changing how little their opinions matter. You have detached from the need to be understood. That detachment is liberation. It is what separates those who grow from those who remain trapped in the same cycles of validation and disappointment. So when you come back different. Let your reappearance remind them that you were never dependent on their attention. You were only giving them access. Let them see a version of you that is beyond reach, beyond persuasion, beyond the past. Cold, composed, and untouchable. They will respect you not because they choose to, but because your transformation leaves them no other option. Power is not won by clinging, by pleading, or by being constantly present. It is won in the silence you leave behind, in the absence that makes others realize your worth, and in the transformation that ensures you are never the same again. Disappear, and let them feel the void. Return, and let them recognize the force they almost lost. In mastery of absence, in control of perception, in deliberate rarity, you do not ask for respect. You command it. Remember, the less they have of you, the more they will value you. And that is the true art of power.